Are you feeling the calling to start or grow a business that is so aligned with you and everything that makes up who you are? Do you know that there has to be a way to do this without so much hustle and without chasing the latest shiny object, but you're just not sure how? You can definitely have a dream business that improves, not consumes your life, that allows you to work with soulmate clients while helping you and your family financially and in all ways. You can elevate yourself to be the entrepreneur who has all of her desires. I'm going to show you how on the Elevated Femmes movement. Hi, welcome back to another episode. So glad you're here, and I apologize, first of all, if I sound a little different today. I have a little bit of a cold. You might even hear my son in the background because he's homesick today. So today what I want to talk about is the benefits of guesting on other people's podcasts. So if you have been following the podcast, then you know that a few episodes ago I did a series on podcasting and all the things to think about before you launch your own podcast, whether a podcast is a good idea for you, and how to really use a podcast to scale your business. And one of the things that can really help scale your business is promoting your own show, because that's how you grow your listenership, which then helps you grow the number of people who become interested in your services and programs and anything that you offer. So this is why podcasting on other people's or guesting on other people's podcasts is really beneficial. So we know that getting in front of other people's audiences is important. So why wouldn't I say, go on somebody's Instagram to share about your podcast, or go on somebody's Facebook group or LinkedIn? Those things are great to do. I'm not saying don't do that. However, if you are limited in time, or you really want to be more, you want to put your money in the right place, I guess, then you want to stick to podcasts, or you want to maybe focus in on podcasts more than other places. And that's because podcast listeners tend to be very loyal. And I talked about the stats in, I think it was episode 56. So if you haven't listened, make sure you listen to episodes 56, 57, and 58, where I really talk about podcasting, having your own podcast, and all the benefits of that. But just like if you wanted to grow your Instagram, you may want to go on somebody else's Instagram to do an interview. Then to grow your podcast, you want to go on other people's podcasts. And like I said, people tend to be very loyal if they're a podcast listener. And it just makes sense, because if someone is on their phone and they're listening to a podcast and they hear you being interviewed and they love the topic that you're talking about, they really resonate, they want to learn more from you, then they're already on they're already on their phone, they're already on their podcast player. They can just easily look up your show and follow you on there. Whereas if you are on Instagram and you start talking about your show, there's 155 things distracting them from taking that simple action of going to find your podcast. Not saying that it can't happen, just saying that it is a little bit harder. So, I do also want to talk a little bit about, paying for ads on podcast players, which is, that can also be a good idea. Again, because you already have people who are listening to a podcast. You just want to bring them over to yours. Whereas if you were doing ads on Instagram or Facebook, then you want to take them to a completely different place, which is your podcast. So podcast guesting. And this is even great if you are not at the point where you are ready to start your own show. It's just a great way to put yourself out there in front of a new audience, to build a relationship with the host. You never know if that host might be somebody who wants to become a client of yours, or maybe you want to work with that host, or maybe they know someone who they can refer to you. They can also connect you to other people, to other hosts. So it's just a great way to build high-level relationships that you never know what could turn out of those things. And the thing about podcast is that the content is evergreen. So unless somebody deletes their platform, unless somebody deletes their show, that content lives on there forever. So you can go on an interview today, and it could even be like a brand new podcast show, right? But you never know. If that podcast host does a good job of promoting and growing their show, what if somebody finds your episode 6 months from now, a year from now, and they're like, oh, wow, I need to learn more about that person. Let me go look them up. Let me go listen to their show. Ooh, I'm listening to their episodes. I'm loving what they're saying. I'm resonating with everything. Ooh, they just taught me something new. I want to go download their thing. I want to go join their Facebook group. They're promoting a program. I think I want to sign up for that. So see how that can work and see how that can happen for you. And what it takes is getting out there and getting visible in front of other people's shows. So I really want this to be a strategy that you think about and that you include in all your other strategies, because it can really be worthwhile. And it can be something that you do every once in a while. It has to be a consistent part of your visibility strategy. So just like you are, maybe going and, interviewing in other people's other platforms like Instagram and Facebook, like I've given those examples. You also want to make podcast guesting a consistent part of your routine. So perhaps you or a team member of yours can set out time once a week to send out emails, send out DMs to podcast hosts and see if they're looking for guests. And the best strategy that I've always seen and that I've used is to make the pitch very personalized. So people can tell when you're sending out a mass-produced generic pitch. So if you can make it very personalized, you're much more likely to get a yes from that person, even if it's not a yes, tomorrow or next week. If they're like, I'm pretty booked, but I will reach out to you in a few months when I have open spots. Then you still have that maybe or that future yes on the horizon. So I would love to have you incorporate the strategy into your visibility routine. It can be super worthwhile. You can get started even before you have your own show, and it can be a very lucrative thing. Another thing, especially if you are looking to guest on someone on someone who is a more higher level podcast host, somebody with a bigger podcast, a great way to really be able to get that yes from them is to make sure you have something to offer them in return. So offer them the opportunity to come and speak to your audience. So if you don't have a podcast yet and you have a big Instagram following, offer them the opportunity to come and get interviewed on your Instagram. Tell them that you're going to share it out to all your other platforms, but really make it worth their while. And again, that will make it more likely that they will say yes to you. It's always easier to get a yes from someone who has a newer or a smaller podcast, but it gets trickier once you start pitching people who are, more well known in their industry. I hope these tips help you. I hope that you also get a little bit of confidence now, knowing that you can do this. This is something that is available to anyone. And the more you do it, the more that you go out there and speak on podcasts, the better you become, the better the better you sound, the better you are able to articulate the topics and the facts that you want to put out there for people to take on. And the more that you are able to grow not just your show, but also your business overall. So thank you so much for tuning in this week, and I will see you again next time. Thank you for listening to the Elevated Femmes movement. I would love to hear your thoughts on the podcast, so please leave us a review. If you know someone who could benefit from the episodes on the show, please share it with them. We need more women elevating to their highest potential, enjoying all the great things in life, having plenty of time freedom for their children and loved ones, while growing a business that improves, not consumes, their life, and doing things in a smarter, not harder way. To connect with me and download my free resources, please go to www.juliamhickman.com.